It's an Ask Anything mailbag, and recording this on a Wednesday. So if anything comes a little bit outdated, maybe a move happens, just scroll on through and go on to the next question, because there are a lot of great questions here on this edition of Dolphins Today and Ask Anything mailbag. And we begin with James Anderson. And no, we're going to go with Ricky Williams. I love it. Using that hashtag Dolphins. Who's a player to watch for the Dolphins next year? Great question, because I think with some of the coaching staff changes, and especially on the defensive side of things, it's going to add an element of opportunity, if you will. And I immediately think of cornerback Cam Smith, because he was a second-round pick last year. Obviously, with the Dolphins not having a first-round pick last year, that was their first pick off the board. They used it on a cornerback out of South Carolina, Cam Smith, and we never got to see if he could play. He played only in garbage time. Vic Fangio never gave him a chance. Vic Fangio was not a fan of his. And now with the new regime on the defensive side of the ball, with Anthony Weaver coming to coach and Joe Barry, a new linebackers coach, perhaps it will provide an opportunity for Cam Smith to show what he can do. And a lot of times I've been critical of Cam Smith and said, figure it out, man. Come on, rookie. And I've been reminded that, hey, he wasn't really given an opportunity by Vic Fangio. And so now with Anthony Weaver calling the shots as the defensive coordinator, maybe we'll finally get a chance to see if Cam Smith can live up to the second-round pick potential that the Dolphins invested in him in that 2023 NFL draft. So I've got Cam Smith under the microscope from the cornerback position. This one's from James Anderson. What's the Dolphins' biggest need in the draft? Great question, and it's exciting because, as I mentioned, the Dolphins do have a first-round draft pick for the first time in 3 years. 7 picks in total. I beg your pardon, 6 picks in total. They have 2 in the 6th round because they don't have a third-round pick or a 4th-round pick. And so when you start to fill out that big board and what the position of needs are, I think first and foremost you got to look up front at the offensive line, because Connor Williams and Rob Hunt are both question marks as their free agents. Will they be re-signed? And the injury bug was a huge component of the conversation with the Miami Dolphins last year. Connor Williams obviously lost for the season. Teron Armstead was in and out. The Dolphins had over 12 different starting offensive line combinations. So beefing up that offensive line room will be so important. The same can be said about the linebacker and edge position. Obviously, Jaelan Phillips and Bradley Chubb are 2 dynamic, game-changing type players, but they've both been injured. Jaelan Phillips blew out the Achilles against the New York Jets on Black Friday, and then in Week 17, it was Bradley Chubb going down with a torn ACL. 2 critical blows to the Dolphins' edge room. And you add Andrew Van Ginkel to that conversation because he really overachieved, had his best season of his career, but is a free agent in 2024. So you got to re-sign Andrew Van Ginkel. But even then, your linebacker and edge room is certainly in need of some reinforcements through the draft. Throw in Jerome Baker. He's a free agent. He might not be back with the team in 2024. So you really want to shore up that linebacker and edge rusher room, because getting pressure on the quarterback is so crucial to the success of any defense in the National Football League. Wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NFL, but a significant drop-off after that. When you consider the prolific offense that Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith intend to run, and that prolific offense we saw at the beginning portion of the season, think back to Week 3 with the 70 points over the Denver Broncos, it was an air raid offense, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle accounted for over 60% of the receiving production. So they need some help in that wide receiver room. Defensive line's interesting because I thought all season the Dolphins got excellent play out of their defensive line. Career year for Christian Wilkins, career year for Zach Zeeler, and they had the 3rd most sacks in the NFL, but there was not any depth at the defensive line. And that's a position group. You're constantly rotating guys. You're constantly needing fresh bodies in there for the hog mollies up front. So I think the defensive line could use some reinforcements behind Christian Wilkins and Zach Zeeler. And Christian Wilkins is a free agent, so there's no guarantee he'll be back in 2023 and 2024. But last but certainly not least, the cornerback room specifically, because if you watched our cut candidate video, I'm in favor of the Dolphins cutting Xavier Howard, because he's one of the highest paid players for the Dolphins. I think he's lost a step. He's battled injuries, and the production doesn't necessarily match the paycheck. They could save a ton of money by cutting Xavier Howard and building the cornerback room up through the draft. All right, let me know what you think down in the comments. What's the Dolphins' biggest draft need? I told you my biggest needs, but I want to hear from you. What position do the Dolphins need to focus on the most in the upcoming NFL draft? Question coming in from Tim B. Can we extend Tua's contract for 1 year and reevaluate him then? Now, that would essentially mean franchise tagging him, but he's already has his 5th-year rookie option that's been exercised, so he's under contract for 1 more year. So, Tim, if you want to do the prove-it year, if you will, then the 5th-year option, I think, is a better option than the franchise tag, which is a 1-year deal. But with the 5th-year option that's already been exercised, Tua then plays the 5th year of his rookie deal, set to make about $23.2 million. And the Dolphins being in the cap situation that they are, $23 million for one player, even if it is your quarterback, is a lot. If they restructured his deal and set it up for a long-term deal with multiple years in that offer, they could save a lot of money. And I think the biggest part of the conversation around Tua prior to this season was, hey, can he even stay healthy? Can he even play 17 games? He did that. He led the NFL in passing. He had the 3rd best passer rating. He had the 2nd most yards per attempt. He checked a lot of the boxes for me. And again, I just caution everybody, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Tua can lead this team. He's shown he can have success with Mike McDaniel. And yes, the Dolphins need to take a step forward in 2024. I'll be the first to tell you that. I'll be the first to tell you they also had the longest postseason winless streak in the National Football League. That needs to change. But I think Tua gives you the best opportunity to change that narrative by leading the Dolphins under center as the quarterback of the Aqua and Orange. All right, want to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor, Game Time, the only ticketing app you'll need because they guarantee the lowest price. And Riepma, stop right there. That's all I need to know. But oh yeah, they take the stress out of buying tickets as well. It's your one-stop shop for all live events. That includes concerts too. Maybe you're trying to get your groove on. And for new customers, we've got $20 off when you download the app. Use that promo code FINSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. And oh yeah, by the way, the big game's coming up. I don't know if you've heard, but that big game's coming right up, and Game Time wants to help new and existing customers out with tickets to the big game, saving you $100 when you use that promo code Vegas100. And think of the possibilities with that $100, what you could do in Vegas. Don't even get me started. Maybe it's another round at the roulette table, or how about another hand of blackjack? And oh yeah, $100 is $100. Maybe it's just your Uber ride or something. Either way, saving $100 is a big deal. Game Time's here to help you out. And don't forget about hoop season. The NBA trade deadline coming right up. The Miami Heat putting together that Heat culture squad. If you want to get out to the arena and check out the Miami Heat, Game Time is the best app to use as well. So don't worry. We put the link in the comments and description of today's video because we love you and we care about you. But download that Game Time app. Use the promo code FINSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. And as always, terms do apply, but download that Game Time app. $20 off when you use promo code FINSCHAT. And $100 off to tickets to the big game with promo code Vegas100. You're welcome from Game Time, taking the stress out of buying tickets, the only ticketing app you'll need for the lowest price, guaranteed. Now, Champion asks a great question here. Do you think we should get Henry, referring to Derrick Henry? And it's one of those things, sounds good on a billboard, on a PowerPoint, gets the fan base excited, and it's also one of those things, you look into it, do you really need it? Is that the best way to allocate funds? I don't think so. I think a running back at the back nine of his career, getting a little bit long in the tooth. Not to say he doesn't have any production left, because I do think he'll continue to be a productive running back in this league, but you're going to have to pay him as a free agent. He's an established running back. He's put up the numbers. He's going to demand a superstar contract, albeit at the running back position, which is generally regarded as one of the lower paying positions. But at the end of the day, this is a Dolphins team that's going to be 40 to 50 million in the hole when the new league year starts in March. And because of that, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to pour that into a running back that at best might be a third string running back for you, because he's not taking carries from Raheem Mostert. He's not taking carries from Devon Achane. And there you have it. He'd be a short yardage, third and fourth down back, and that's a hefty price to pay for Derrick Henry for a limited role. So unfortunately, sounds great. It'd be an awesome headline. I'd be excited about it because I do think this might be crazy, but I think he has the numbers to at least be considered as a future Hall of Famer. Maybe not quite to that level, but point being, yeah, obviously he's an established running back in this league and will make a huge headline wherever he lands, but I don't think it'd be in the Dolphins' best interest for it to be in Miami. From Firefighter 841, predict the record for the next season. Okay. Let me get my prediction hat on. And let's start in the division, because I think the Bills are going to be good again, obviously. It'll be interesting to see if something happens with Stephon Diggs. But anytime you got Josh Allen in the division, that's of note. The Patriots, depending on how and who they draft, a lot of people think they'll draft a quarterback, so that adds a whole nother wrinkle when you got a rookie quarterback. Aaron Rodgers coming back for the Jets, that's going to be tough. And so I do think it's going to be an uphill battle, but I see this as a team that needs to have their expectations set on the playoffs and playoff wins. So like last year and any year for that matter, I think you got to get to 11 to 12 wins to have a chance at the division and be in the conversation. And so I'll say maybe 11-6, get into the playoffs and win a playoff game. How about that? And if they draft well, undefeated. I'm just kidding around. All right, Sherry May, great question here. Free agent wide receivers to keep an eye on. T. Higgins is probably the biggest name out of Cincinnati. I don't see the Dolphins making a big splash signing for a free agent wide receiver because they have such an established 1-2 punch with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I do think they might at least consider and investigate what restructuring Tyreek Hill's contract might look like, especially when they have to save so much money when the new league year starts. But I don't think you add a big free agent wide receiver name to that rotation. I think the Dolphins would benefit more from some role players at the number 3 spot of the wide receivers, maybe even a pass-catching tight end through the draft. I talked about maybe a luxury pick in the first round for the Dolphins, going with Brock Bowers out of Georgia. That would be a lot of fun because he'd add a whole nother element to the passing game. And not to take anything away from Durham Smythe, but I think a dynamic tight end in Mike McDaniel's system would go a long way. And I really don't see the Dolphins testing the wide receiver free agent market. All right, from Champion 2038, do you think we should draft a wide receiver and develop him so that when Hill leaves next year, we have a solid wide receiver? I don't think Tyreek Hill's leaving. I really do get the feeling that he wants to finish his career in Miami. I think the relationship with Tua speaks to that as well. They seem like best friends. The production's been there. And Tyreek Hill would benefit from staying in Miami when you have a play-calling coach like Mike McDaniel that knows how to get him the ball, knows how to get him the ball in space. And look at the damage he did for the Miami Dolphins this past season. Nearly broke Calvin Johnson's record of most receiving yards in a single season. Obviously led the NFL in that department and led the NFL in receiving touchdowns as well. As far as drafting a wide receiver, yeah, I do like that idea. And I've talked about that in a previous mock draft, that there is a lot of wide receivers to be targeting and maybe some that might even be available in the second round. There's a lot of wide receivers a couple wide receivers from Texas, A.D. Mitchell, a guy that could be available in the second round that might make an impact for the Dolphins through the passing game. And when you look at the wide receivers in this draft class as a whole, there's a lot of guys that might fall through the cracks even into the 4th and 5th rounds that might be game-changing players. Look at Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He was a 4th-round pick. So there's plenty of stories like that. I just pointed to him because he was an all-pro as a 4th-round pick. And the potential that wide receivers can have in the right system, you can find some hidden gems in the draft. All right, Tua's touchdowns. What's going to happen with Tua? Well, if you've been with us on Dolphins Today, you know that's been a lengthy topic of discussion. And for me, it's real simple. You offer him a 4-year deal, $180 million, 100 of it guaranteed. Certainly not the most lucrative contract in the NFL for quarterbacks, but certainly enough to show Tua's camp, to show the organization, this is our guy. We're putting it on him, and he is the future of the organization. He's proven that he can stay healthy. He's proven that he can have a big year statistically. Now it's about proving and going out and winning those games the Dolphins might not be favored in, those games against teams with winning records, playoff games, road games, and so on and so forth. And I think he's done enough to at least warrant the belief in Tua Tagovailoa and see if he can do it within the next couple of years. From Christine Wilkerson, what do you make of the new staff changes on defense? Great question. So this is a good opportunity to catch everybody up on some of the staff changes because the Miami Dolphins have hired Joe Barry, the Packers' former defensive coordinator, as their linebackers coach. So he replaces Anthony Campanile. In fact, it was just a little coach swap because Campanile goes to Green Bay. And most importantly, calling the shots on defense will be Anthony Weaver, the new defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. He comes over from the Baltimore Ravens organization where he was the associate head coach under John Harbaugh and also the defensive line coach. And I like the hire of Anthony Weaver. I think there were a lot of really good candidates out there when Vic Fangio left to go to Philadelphia. All of a sudden, you started doing the research and seeing, hey, Brandon Staley's out there. Hey, Chris Shula's out there. Hey, you had some good internal candidates with Anthony Campanile and Ryan Slowick. Both of them were not afforded the opportunity. They're both out, and so it's out with the old, in with the new, and I'm excited for the future of the Dolphins defense. I hope Anthony Weaver can bring an element of grittiness, a little bit of an edge to the Dolphins defense that they certainly lacked in the latter portion of 2023, make some personnel changes, build through the draft, and have a vaunted defense in 2024 under Anthony Weaver. But, hey, that's my take. I want to hear from you. Grade the hire of Dolphins' new defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver. Let me know down in the comments. A, B, C, or D. You got to let me know. I want to know and hear from you what you think of the hiring of Anthony Weaver. All right, we got a lot of people weighing in on this one. As always, that's going to do it for our Ask Anything mailbag. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this was on Wednesday of this week, so if there's anything outdated, just scroll on past. As always, thanks so much for tuning in to Dolphins Today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're always bringing you the latest in NFL free agency, Dolphins draft talk, and everything else covering the aqua and orange. That's why you subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.